Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about Double Masters spoilers. Some of them are hits, some of them are misses. Let's dive right in, starting out with the Blade Splicer. 1 white and 2 for a 1/1. When it comes into play, you get to make a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature, and it gives golems first strike, or your golems, not your opponents. So you have a situation where it's not too shabby for 3 mana. You know what I mean? You get yourself a 3/3 body along with the 1/1 Splicer. I never really cared for these Splicer creatures that made golems and gave golems abilities. They felt like really kind of lame sliver-ish concepts where it's not quite slivers, but kind of playing along in the same vein. Now, yeah, I mean, you pay 3 mana getting 4 power and toughness worthy creatures. It's not too shabby. I'm not like saying this is a terrible card, but overall, I've always felt like meh about this card. Like, this one's a miss for me. The artwork's pretty good. You know what I mean? The golem looks pretty intimidating back there with the spiked kind of ridged body, and the Blade Splicer itself is just horrific. This mix of metal and human that it's very off-putting, in all honesty, very Phyrexian. So, I mean, from a flavor perspective, sure, card's great, but from an overall, I've never cared about this card. It's just, for me, it's always filled me with, like, just a meh feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go, oh, I hate the card. It's never done anything for me. Yeah, whatever. Next card we have is Austerity Command. 2 white and 4 for a sorcery. Choose 2. I do like cards like this that have a bunch of, like, options. So, choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. So essentially, you have like a Wrath style effect for a number of different scenarios. You can do a full style Wrath if you want by choosing both the options that destroy creatures that have a mana cost of 3 or less, and for the ones that say mana cost of 4 or greater, that'll take all creatures off the board, or depending on the size of the creatures on the board, you can also wipe out artifacts or enchantments, or you can just go, boom, I'm going to destroy this. I'm going to use this to destroy all artifacts and enchantments. This is a bunch of different cards kind of wrapped up into one, and I dig that. The artwork is cool. You've got an angel who's kind of tracing out these crazy glyphs in the air, and this magic, depending on what it is that she, like, draws upon out of it. Like, I don't know if it's all these symbols just kind of appear when you cast a spell, and you specify which symbols, like what effects you're going to go for, or if it's just, you know, this spell and there's different versions of it, and as you're casting the spell, you're creating the particular glyphs that will either wipe out all artifacts, enchantments, like attuning to that kind of magic. That's some really cool flavor. And honestly, this is one of the more ominous pieces of artwork that features an angel on a white card. You know what I mean? Like, angels are usually shown in more of like either a heroic or protective, or in some ways like vendetta, but like, no, like holy vengeance. Whereas this doesn't give that kind of feel. It gives this feeling of dark judgment. There's some nice flavor to that for sure. So that one I'm giving a hit. So that's a hit. Next up, we've got Flicker Wisp. This is an uncommon 2 white and 1 for a 3/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. The flavor text says, its wings disturb more than air. That's pretty funky to think about the fact that this is a crazy elemental, and the like beating of its wings can essentially cause beings to fade out of existence for a brief period of time, right? Because it doesn't even show back up right away. A lot of flicker effects will be like, take it out, bring it back. You know, you put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, the hokey pokey, you do it right away. I don't know where the hokey pokey came from, but whatever. Let's move on. Apparently I'm switching into a kid's show. I raged out too much yesterday, and now I'm dialing it all the way back. You know what? Forget it. I guess if we're going that route and I'm just going to entertain kids. Hey, do you guys like shiny things and noises? Here you go. Do you like soda pop? I'm going to drink some soda pop, all right? I'm going to have to mark this video as made for kids. All right. Okay. So, we've got this Flicker Wisp, and it basically, instead of just boom, you're out, boom, you're back in, it's more of a long-term effect. And it just, I always pictured this thing because it kind of looks like a gigantic, gross hand that might have like a mouth in the middle or whatever. But it just looks like a giant, gross hand with all these crazy fingers that turn into these almost like points of a nail. You know what I mean? Like instead of having regular nails, it's like actual metallic nails. But it just lands on you and pinches onto you with all these little claws, sinking them into you, and then flaps its little wings and you just fade out of existence. That's intense. And I mean, in all honesty, in terms of flicker effects, getting a 3-1 body with it, yeah, you can't play it at instant speed, but still, it's a 3-1 body and it's a flicker effect on a good creature. So overall, this is pretty good. As an uncommon, I give this a hit. All right, and look at it on the wings. You can even see it looks like it's got eyes, kind of the same way that butterflies have that kind of a design going on where it's meant to look like, hey, here's actually where my eyes and my face are, but not really. Fooled you. Moving on, we've got Path to Exile. This card is magnificent. 1 white, it is an instant that exiles target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle their library. I mean, this is straight up incredible creature removal. You know what I mean? Like Swords to Plowshares, admittedly, is pretty much straight up better. It gives them life, you know, instead of the land. So it's like, who cares? Give your opponent a few life to remove a card from the game. But either way, Path to Exile is really, really solid. This is really strong creature removal. The artwork is incredible as well. It's interesting because you've got a Leonin that's being destroyed here, right? And you would think like Leonins are white aligned. It's interesting to see a white spell destroying a white creature as opposed to like something from one of its enemy colors, like a red creature. So you've got this Leonin who's being pulled into nothingness, but it's almost like he's being turned into what looks like flower petals. They may not be flower petals, but it gives that kind of a vibe. It's got like a very, it's crazy that he's screaming in this horrific way, but also being pulled apart in a way that looks kind of beautiful. That's messed up, you know, and it's a messed up thing to do. This card is strong. It's got great flavor. That is a hit as well. There's probably gonna be more hits than misses in this, but there are definitely some big misses when it comes to like the rare category. We've got Stonehewer Giant up next. It's 2 white and 3 for a 4/4 giant warrior. It's got vigilance. Pay 1 white and 1, tap it, search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle your library. That's really strong. The fact that, like, sure, he costs 5 mana, but if you manage to get to swing with him, he's got vigilance, so he's not going to tap to attack. And then you can tap him to activate his ability after he's attacked, and he can just go, oh yeah, here's some equipment. It's nutty, man. The flavor text says, no matter how strong, an unarmed fighter is no more than a fool. That's understandable. The artwork's great. You've got this huge giant, and for scale, they put these birds flying by, which is a great way to do things, because at first glance, you could actually mistake this for a dwarf. You know what I mean? Just look at him with his braided beard, the multiple axes, you might quickly look at the art and go, oh, that's a dwarf. But the more attention you pay, the more you will see that, no, this guy's massive. You've got the birds in the back as the easiest and most obvious clue. But if you pay attention to his axes as well, you can see they're uprooted trees. He's literally using trees as axe handles. It's kind of funky. I think the idea behind this is a giant artisan who's a warrior who's able to craft pretty much any equipment that you know of. If basically he can just learn from whatever planeswalker he's aligned with, what sort of equipment are you familiar with, and then he can just create it himself. That's funky, you know? That is a cool concept. Either that, or he can focus mana and just draw your equipment out on his own, summoning it himself. That's a funky concept as well. So that is a hit. Next up, we've got Arkhamdagson. This is 1 blue and 3 for a 2/2 human artificer. He's a mythic rare, which I'm not a fan of this. He was rare originally. They upgraded him to mythic rare, and I feel like he was only upgraded to mythic rare because he's worth money. You know what I mean? Like they will try and use excuses like, oh, you know, it's a matter of he's just too strong for draft, and we don't want him to show up too much. So that part, I don't buy that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys, who you kidding? Who you kidding? It's because he's gone up to being like a $20 card. And you know you can put him in the mythic category where he's not like a big high-level mythic. And it's like, okay, well, he counts as a mythic. We've got 40 mythics, so that is a little disappointing, I gotta say. His ability is tap him, target artifact creature's controller sacrifices it. That player may search their library for a non-creature artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. It's funky how you can turn basically artifact creatures into non-artifact creatures. The flavor text says, Artifice sundered the world. It shall not again wreak such sorrow. This is actually a character who existed in older Magic's history, and he is adamantly against artifact construct creatures. So the idea that he would go along converting artifact creatures into things that he would deem as usable and non-threatening to society fits perfectly for the flavor. So this guy's flavor is great. The artwork is pretty straightforward. I mean, you've got him here as a wizard. He's reaching out, kind of like enervating and destroying some sort of artifact creature with a crazy device that he has. It's funky artwork. I mean, overall, I give the card a hit, but I give it a miss on the fact that they upgraded it to mythic. You know what I mean? I also feel like at this point, we're going to talk about thirst for knowledge, and I want to make sure the kids are still enjoying the video. So let's sip some more pop, kids. Let's have some more sugar water. Okay. Thirst for knowledge. 1 blue and 2 for an instant that says draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. The flavor text says lymph, the fluid essence of blink moths, is prized by wizards for the rush of intellect it provides. The idea behind the card, drinking blink moth essence to gain a rush of knowledge, is fine from a player perspective. The guy in the card looks like such a D-bag. His hat looks dumb. His goggles look dumb. The expression on his face looks dumb. The stupid finger up, like while he's drinking. What are you? Pinky's out. I'm such a classy guy. And even the shape of what he's pulling up to his mouth, the whole thing is just, oh my God, like, no thank you, you know? The biggest no thank you for me, though, is the fact that when I read lymph, it just makes me think of lymph nodes. So it's like this guy is drinking like people's lymph node juice. It's like, ugh. It's a fine uncommon. It's I don't know if I would call it a hit or a miss, in all honesty. This is a That's what we'll call this one. All right. Moving on, we got Doomed Necromancer. 1 black and 2 for a 2/2 human cleric mercenary. I didn't know they added mercenary. That's cool. That's a nice little flavor add. You know what I mean? It doesn't add much to the power level of the card, but I do like that Wizards goes back and updates creature types to like make them fit and make more sense. I like that. That's cool. Just here you go. Have this. You are like a mercenary, so you can have that type. That's great. So it's 3 mana for a 2/2. Pay a black and sack it. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flavor text says, many necromancers share the same last words, the ones that conclude the undeath ritual. I like that. I like the idea of a necromancer. This is like the idea of somebody who's basically like trying to play in a league bigger than their own. They're in a higher weight class than they should be. However you want to look at it, it's somebody who's not up to the level they need to be. So this is like a wannabe necromancer who's learned some like really low-level necromantic magic. Maybe they learned how to raise like a chicken skeleton, and it's like, but they've never done like any kind of real entity, and then they mess around. Maybe they reanimate like a halfling or something like that, and then they're finally ready to try it on like some big ogre or orc body or some other like beast, something more powerful, which requires a more powerful spell, but they're not well versed enough in magic to realize that the way the spell is designed, it's literally going to consume their life force for the animation of it. So in their ineptitude, it leads to their own failure. I love that, and I love the way it's illustrated in this artwork, where you can see the necromancer. He's got the scroll, like he doesn't even know the magic, right? Instead of just knowing the magic like the angel we saw who's tracing out the sigils, he's like, it's like almost Army of Darkness. Klaatu, Varatu, and then all of a sudden, what? Like that's the kind of vibe. And I love it. The artwork's really well done. Transmits the flavor quite well. I enjoy that a lot. Like, Doom Necromancer is cool. And from a power perspective, not too shabby either, right? Speaking of power, let's talk about the next card. Oh, sorry, I'll give that one a hit. All right, next card. Skithrax, the Blight Dragon. Or as some people call him, Skittles. You got to taste that rainbow. 2 black and 3 for a 4/4 flying skeleton dragon. That's a pretty cool distinction. There's not a lot of skeleton dragons out there, right? In anything, let alone in Magic. So, 4/4 flying infect. And how infect works is instead of doing regular combat damage, you deal your damage in -1/-1 counters to creatures and into players' poison counters. So that's pretty intense. You only need 10 poison counters to lose the game. And Skithrax gives you 4 in 1 hit. And for 1 black, it gains haste, so it can swing the first turn. And for 2 black, it regenerates. This is a really, really, really powerful dragon. And the idea of a blight dragon, a skeletal dragon that infects people, is amazing. Look, how does Skithrax even fly? Look at the wings. Just has like the pinions, but not actually any of like the leathery flesh that goes in between it. And off of Skithrax's back, you've got these noxious fumes coming out. The bones of the rib cage are all like poked out and everything. This is amazing. Skithrax looks so cool. And just this like perched against a foggy night sky works so well, dude. The artwork is awesome. This card is really strong. It's fantastic. I give it a big fat thumbs up. Great include. Next, we have the Wick Cremator. Ew. 2 red and 2 for a 5/4. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card at random. If you discard a creature card this way, it deals damage equal to that card's power to target player or planeswalker. And the flavor text says, each night that his bowl fills, a village mourns. That's pretty insane from a flavor perspective. He's literally just out there like cremating people, all kinds of people into this bowl, to the point where entire villages are mourning, where it's like, we've lost a bunch of our people. That's nuts. So this card is not very good. Let's be real. Yeah, you can manipulate into a situation where you only have 1 card left in your hand and you can pitch it for like nice damage to your opponent or their planeswalker. But overall, this is an underwhelming card. It's not super powerful. Like in a set like Double Masters, where the products are like, it's a more expensive product, right? This is not good enough. You know what I mean? This is meh. Thumbs down. I give it a miss. But the artwork and the flavor of it, I give that a thumbs up. You know, it's pretty cool. I like the way he's lit up by that bowl. It's got some pretty dark energy to it. Dark energy. Moving on, we got Heat Shimmer. Oh, sorry, hold on, man. Kid break. Here you go. Sippy. Okay, Heat Shimmer. This is going to be another miss me with this one, dog. 1 red and 2 for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature, accept it as haste. At the beginning of the end step, exile the permanent. So you exile the copy. Better to flare out than to gutter. Whatever, man. That's a Flamekin expression, you know. Better to burn out than fade away, I believe, is a better. That's just it's the same expression, just not as enjoyable. Whatever, though. You know what? The artwork of the card is pretty cool. I'll give it that. I do like the copy as like heat waves. That's a cool concept. It's pretty funky, too, that you can target your opponent's creatures, because this looks like a merfolk that's swimming along, and this is it's just like, it's almost like it's about to be taken down by a copy of itself. It's funky, man. The Heat Shimmer itself stands out really well against the aquamarine-ish kind of tealish water. I don't know which is which. I get those two colors kind of mixed up because they're so similar to each other to me. But that's actually, I don't know if you know this, but like men tend to not have the ability to differentiate as many colors as women can. So I've definitely gotten into conversations where it's like, that's like this color. It's like, no, it's that color. Like, it's crazy, you know? But whatever. Let us move on to the next card, and that is Trash for Treasure. 1 red and 2 for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, you sack an artifact, and you get to return target artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flavor text says, goblins generally have 2 possessions, 1 per hand. And this has been actually downgraded. This was rare originally, downgraded to uncommon. So I give it a thumbs up for that. I do like the idea that it's like I think the concept behind this is supposed to be, you're trading this goblin. Like, basically, you, by sacrificing an artifact, it's you giving this artifact to the goblin. In exchange for one of the artifacts, the goblin has scrounged. So this goblin goes and finds your, like, your artifact that's busted or whatever, and, like, manages to cobble it back together, and you see that he has it, and you're like, hey, I'll give you this thing for it, and it's like, I can only hold 2 things. Okay, and it takes it. Like, it's just got a cute little flavor to it. I like that. So this card gets a thumbs up. It's a hit for me. I'll give that the hit. After that, we got Brea, Ethereum Shaper. Her empty body has always freaked me out. So 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 white for a 4/4 legendary artifact human. When Brea enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 Thopter artifacts with flying. Sack 2 artifacts for 2 mana. Choose 1. Brea deals 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn, or you gain 5 life. That's a lot of abilities packed into one card. Generating creatures to sacrifice, being able to damage players, being able to damage planeswalkers directly, being able to take creatures out even that are indestructible with the -4/-4, being able to up your life total. That's all really nice abilities to have. And the artwork's amazing. She's got, like, she feels like she's got a crazy little, like, jaunty metal hat on, but her entire body is made out of Ethereum. She's from, why is the name eluding me right now? Either way. She's from the Shard where they're actually made out of flesh and Ethereum magical metal. And this is, like, I don't know, man. Just so much of her body is made that way. It's really intense artwork. I like it quite a bit. That looks great. She's intense. Let us move on. Esper, that's what it is. All right. 1 black, 1 blue, and 3 get you the Sphinx Summoner. It's a 3/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact creature, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Now, this has been redone as a, not redone, but like shifted down as an uncommon. So as an uncommon, this feels all right. You know, it's a summoner that can find you a particular artifact creature. The artwork shows a Sphinx, like, diving down. It's fine. I mean, the story, I actually really like the background of the art more than the Sphinx itself. The Sphinx, yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like it's got a black-blue vibe to it, though. I'll give you that. But for me, it's whatever. It's a miss, you know? I miss me with that one. Moving on. We got Voice of Resurgence. 1 white and 1 green for a 2/2 elemental. Oh, they actually downshifted it from mythic to rare. That's surprising. That's cool. Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, or when Voice of Resurgence goes to the graveyard, create a green and white elemental creature token. With this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. That is a pretty solid ability, honestly. It's a very good answer against, like, control decks that are countering all of your stuff, you know? Anybody who wants to play around on your turn has to pay the price. And the artwork's pretty funky, man. This is an elemental, like, elk man? Something like that? Stag man? But he's blended in with the forest like he's perfectly a part of it. That's some cool flavor. I like the fact that they downgraded it to rare. I like this card overall, so this is a good include. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. After that, we've got Bosch, which, even as cool as he is, I got to give him a thumbs down for them including this. This is a worthless card. You know what I mean? Like, this has never in the entire history of its existence been more than a 50-cent bulk bin, 10-cent garbage rare, depending on where you go, right? So, 8 casting cost artifact, 6/7 legendary golem. He's got trample. You pay a red and 3 and sack an artifact, and he deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's converted mana cost to any target. The flavor text says, as Glissa searches for the truth about Memnarch, Bosch searches to unearth the secrets of his past. Bosch is actually featured in the Magic storyline. He is in the Mirrodin storyline. He is a golem who is discovered by Glissa and Slowbad. They find him in the Mephidros, I think that's where it was, and they bring him back. I'll eventually be covering his lore and all that Mirrodin lore as well over on my new channel, Fantasy Geographic, where I'm, like, just releasing lore videos. If you didn't know about that, I'll put a link in the comments so that you can go and check that out if you want. But yeah, I will definitely cover this character because he's a cool character, and this card is actually like interesting in that this was the first time in Magic where they made colorless artifacts that had colored activation costs. So the fact that he costs red mana to activate is not something that normally would happen with artifacts before this. They experimented with that and decided to make it a part of Magic. So funnily enough, for a while, this guy like was basically like, you can't use him because he has red in his color identity, and like he created weird issues in Commander. I'm not going to actually get deep into that because the video isn't specifically about Bosch. But let's just say overall, the card is underwhelming. It's a disappointing include, so it gets a miss from me. The next card, however, Cyclonic Rift, with this special like extended art version. I mean, first of all, Cyclonic Rift's a great card, but this version, oh, magnificent. Looks great. So 1 blue and 1. It's an instant. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. But here's where it gets gross. It has Overload. So for 1 blue and 6, you return all non-land permanents you don't control to their owner's hand. So everybody but you puts everything on the table that's not lands back into their hands. And it only costs 7 mana, and it's only like instant speed. You don't have to do it at sorcery or whatever else. This card is bonkers. This card is so good. The flavor text says, oh, that's what this switch does. All right, you know what? That's fun, actually. That you've got a laboratory, and you can see over on the side, an individual has pulled some kind of lever or switch, and that has opened up this gigantic time rift that is sending people hurtling back. Just, there you go, everybody's getting sucked into it. That's cool. The artwork is great, man. This is great. The flavor of this is a lot of fun. Now, let me take another delicious sip. A delicious sip of my beverage. And we're going to have to cut the video for a second here. All right, we're back. Not like it seems like I went anywhere, but I have a nice camera in terms of camera quality, but it literally will only let me record for a little less than half an hour before it kicks out. So I don't want to still be talking about cards and notice, oh, the recording stopped, and I have no idea where I am. So there you go. I'm sure most YouTubers are so professional that they wouldn't tell you that, but I'm the kind of guy who will tell you that while also having another sip for the kids. All right, Cyclonic Rift, huge thumbs up. Moving on to Dark Confidant. All right, 1 black and 1 for a 2/1 human wizard. That hurt. Oh god. Okay, this is a good card. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal a top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. Greatness at any cost. You know what? The flavor text makes perfect sense. The idea behind this, the idea of a Dark Confidant, someone who will give you power, but in exchange it costs you like actual life force, that's an intense concept. I like that. There's actually something going on similarly right now in the one Magic novel that I'm reading and doing lore videos about. So having that whole like, I'm power behind the throne, but secretly I'm just leeching the life force from them and ruining their realm. You can see here that the ruler's off to the side, right? Almost like they don't even matter. I really like the artist's choice to make the ruler like just completely off to the side, like they're not a relevant part really of what's going on. And the tilt of the head along with the staff, just this like real feeling of age, like they're just almost senile at this point, and it's really the confidant that's ruining it, like running the kingdom. And at the same time, you've got that clawed hand on there, like he's a vampire just like sucking the life force out of him. For all we know, this king could be in his 20s or 30s, whatever it is. Now, let's deal with the obvious. The Dark Confidant's eyes, he looks ridiculous. He looks all silly, just like, let me lean in and talk to you. I look all squinty. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that really, if you get in deep and look, it's like, okay, you know what? His eyes are kind of like bloodshot a little and kind of evil looking. But when you look at the card from a distance, he just looks like he's going like this. And that's kind of silly. That's kind of silly, you know? What are you going to do, though? Overall, great card. Very, very nice artwork overall. Aside from the little squidgy looking eyes, you know? Moving on. We got, oh, this card, dude. This is the only card that I'm putting not in English because we had to talk about the artwork for it. This is sneak attack, all right? So sneak attack is 1 red and 3. And you pay 1 red, pick a creature from your hand, put it into play. It gains haste. At the end of turn, you sacrifice it. It's a great card. But this artwork, I love it, man. Because when you first look at it, you go, oh, okay, like, you've got like a bunch of orcs or maybe some really beefy goblins from whatever plane sitting around a campfire, eating, preparing, or whatever. You think to yourself, okay, is this like a raiding party? Maybe like getting ready to go on a sneak attack? And then you look in the background and you see the face of either like some sort of cave dragon or giant cave lizard, but he's blending in perfectly with the surroundings. Like, you don't notice him at first, and when you do, you go, whoa, that's amazing. Like, these orcs, they're done for. There's no escaping this, you know what I mean? Now that's a sneak attack. This is a beautiful card. I would absolutely love to add that to my cube, man, for sure. That's a hit. Did I say that? Whatever, man. The last 2 cards have been hits in case I missed it, all right? Moving on to another hit. Noble Herok with a special new border and artwork. 1 green for a 0/1 human druid. It has Exalted, so whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. And it taps for a green, a white, or a blue. Flavor text says, in all her years of vigil, her resolve has never faltered. This is a really powerful card. You know what I mean? Like, you get a lot for your 1 mana. You get acceleration, which would be quite a bit on its own. And then you just attach, I should say, the Exalted onto it as well. Like, that's just dumb, because however many different creatures you have with Exalted, that all stacks up. This is a card that goes for a considerable chunk of change. And this artwork is awesome. This sort of like meditative pose out in the jungle with the like sun kind of peeking out on the one side like that. There's something about this that's really, really striking. And I love the staff stuck into the ground with all the charms hanging off of it. Dude, this is great. This artwork is really, really enjoyable to me. And the final card we have to talk about is Rise the Redeemed. This guy's cool too, man. This is a hybrid green or white, and it's a 1/1. Pay 1 green, white, and 2, and tap it to put a 1/1 green, white elf warrior creature token into play. And you can pay 6 mana in total, 2 of which are green, white hybrid. For each creature token you control, put a token into play that's a copy of that creature. Whole again in Honor and Horn. The reason it's saying that is because the world of Lorwyn. The world of Lorwyn, where he hails from, is actually has 2 different variations. There's the nighttime world and the daytime world, and they exist for hundreds of years apiece each. And this is him restored. In one world, he is basically broken horned and outcast. And in this version, he is instead whole again. It's cool to see that sort of thing happen, right? The artwork's nice, you know what I mean? It shows him standing there kind of atop this jagged, ragged looking forest, which is emblematic for how Lorwyn was in those times. And that stuff we will cover as well. There are a bunch of Lorwyn novels. So that's stuff that we'll cover over on my other channel. If you didn't get the memo already, I am in the process of moving all of my lore videos over to my new lore channel. It's called Fantasy Geographic. It's going to be just focused specifically on lore, and right now only Magic the Gathering lore, with the potential for Dungeons and Dragons lore to be added in as well. So if you're somebody who's been watching my lore videos and enjoy them, or just somebody who's interested in Magic lore, you're going to want to go over there and subscribe. I'm going to be releasing the previous lore videos I've already made for the next number of days, and then this weekend, a brand new installment in the Karn lore series will drop as well. All right, so that wraps up this video. Thanks for coming and hanging out. If you like what I'm doing here, like, comment, subscribe, share the video around. Those are all great for the channel. If you love what I'm doing and want to help me keep doing it so you can have more of this goodness, join up on my Patreon. That's all I have to say for now. I will see you all, my friends, very soon. But for now,